Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Kai, your host, and welcome to the Leader Lift podcast.
Leader Lift with Mike Kai, taking your leadership from one peak to the next.
Welcome to the Leader Lift podcast, where we're going to take your leadership from one peak to the next. I'm so glad that you're joining us today. I want you to lean in, take notes, tell us what impacted you the most in the comments, and have a listen, but more than anything, just allow your heart to be open to what is going to be said today through these podcasts. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. My name is Mike Kai, and I'm so excited that here we are today, kicking off one of our very first conversations when it comes to the marketplace. You know, it is our firm belief that we are all here to equip people to do the work of the ministry in every sphere of society. So no matter what you do in this world, what you do in this life, Jesus wants you to make a difference. So I want to welcome my good friend Micah Cravalho to the podcast. Micah, how you doing?
Good, man. It's good to be here.
Man, your tan is better than mine.
Well, that's the good thing about being in Hawaii. It
Exactly.
brings it out of me.
Yeah. So I'm excited that we have Micah Cravalho. He is the founder and CEO of Generosity Water, a incredible water, high pH. What's the pH on that?
pH 10.
pH 10. Is that the highest you can get?
Highest quality water on the marketplace.
And what does that do for
Shameless
me?
plug.
What does that
What
do?
does it do for you?
Yeah.
Do you want me to go into real detail?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your body processes water in a way where it has to get to the bloodstream as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And what alkaline water does is it processes minerals
Mm-hmm.
and it gets it to the bloodstream as quick as possible. And so our alkaline water happens to be sourced from the ocean all over the world, from Indonesia and from the Caribbean. And so it allows your body to absorb it instantly, kind of like an IV, where you shoot it right into your veins and right into your bloodstream. Well, this is like taking minerals orally right to your bloodstream. And that's why it's effective, and it allows your body to absorb H2O and hydrate your body quicker than other waters.
So alkaline water also, what does that do for you also? It's not just getting to the bloodstream quicker, but is it clarity? Is it health?
I
What's the
mean,
health benefits?
from a health standpoint, our bodies are made up of 80% water, right?
Yeah.
So our bodies thrive off water, and most of people's problems, backaches, headaches, any type of arthritis, things like that, actually can be relieved by being properly hydrated. So hydration is a very serious thing. Obviously, I'm passionate about it.
Yeah.
And telling the story of quality alkaline water is something that I think people really got to get serious about for sure.
Absolutely. I need some cases drop shipped to my
I know.
house homes.
That's my bad. I was supposed to send you that a
We're
long
supposed
time
to have
ago.
a bottle here of
I know.
Generosity Water right now, but that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
I'll get it to you at some point.
So you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And so where are you from? How did this all start?
Well, I was born and raised in Maui, Hawaii, and my dad and mom were pastors. They were pastors at a staff for 35 years on a church called King's Cathedral in Maui. And so I grew up in church my entire life, but for some reason, I really had a strong desire to get into business. And I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was. I just knew I wanted to get in business. And for some reason, I thought business was hotel management. I don't know why, because in Hawaii, hosting and taking care of tourists was a big deal. And when I went to college and I started getting exposed to different types of business and industries, that's when I really got inspired, and I really started to think through, how can I figure out a way to own my own company one day? And that's really being an entrepreneur, right? It's figuring out ways to try things, and you're going to fail, and you're going to make mistakes,
Sure.
and there's going to be a lot of heartache, and there's going to be a lot of doubt, and there's going to be a lot of discouragement. But the word entrepreneur actually means like figuring out different ways to make something work.
Really?
You know, and most people, after 2 or 3 failures, they get really discouraged and they kind of walk away. And true entrepreneurs just always persevere, and they always figure out a way to get through it.
What I love about this is a lot of entrepreneurs are going to be listening to this podcast, people in business, in leadership positions. And I think, like, for me to find somebody like you, a true entrepreneur that actually grew up here in Hawaii, born and raised on Maui, spent some time on the Big Island in a little town called Honoka'a, where I'm from.
Absolutely.
We just, like, all of a sudden, when we met each other last year, I heard about you, then all of a sudden we meet each other, and I'm like, who is this guy? Well, how awesome is this? And from the same small town, it's almost like Nazareth, right?
It's amazing. I like you're my spirit animal. Crazy how we just connected right away. It was awesome, you know. And I think a lot of it is because I found that there wasn't a lot of people that I looked up to in business in my life. You know what I mean? Or even great leaders, not even just business, but just great leaders. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm attracted to now too. It's just leadership, high capacity people. I want to be around them. I want to ask them questions. Yeah. That's the number one reason. Like, I'm using you in our relationship because you are used. Real high capacity. You're brilliant. The way you lead your church, the way you take care of your people, the way that you love people, the way you host relationships. I've never seen anything like it. So maybe I'm selfish.
And you know a lot of people, but you just said, I know who you know. You know, like the upper echelon, you know what I'm saying? And for you to say that, I'm taking that for real. I'm taking that serious.
Yeah, for sure.
It's awesome.
It's true.
So one of the biggest keys, in my opinion, or I want to ask you, what do you think about this? Because you can be a businessman and you can be a Christian businessman. Yeah. What's the difference other than your belief system? What's the difference? What's the difference maker?
I think business is very competitive, and I think because money is involved, I think it gets to be very cutthroat. And the difference in being a Christian in the marketplace from just kind of going out and hustling is that it's really you really start to discover that it's not about yourself. Yeah. You know what I mean? That it's that when you're leading a business, that it's less about you making more dollars or you being able to do more deals or you getting the most glory or you getting the most recognition. It really actually becomes about being an example to your team, showing them that you are running your company with a conviction. You're driven by your core values, and they can physically see you every single day consistently living that out. And to me, that's one of the biggest testimony about Christian leaders in the marketplace is they stand out because you can tell them, you can see them serving their teams. Yeah. They're serving their community. They're serving their clients. They're truly being integrous. They're true men of character, and that just stands out. Yeah. Why? Because it's so obvious when somebody's selfish. It's so obvious when people are fighting nickel and diming over a percentage here and a percentage there and taking this person to a lawsuit and this person to court. It's because it's so cutthroat. Jesus can shine in the biggest way, just simply loving people through deals or forgiving people through deals, or just being a leader that cares more about the person instead of what that person can actually do for them.
Wow. So Micah, where'd you get your philosophy or your belief system? Obviously from church, but what specific leaders would you mention that you've got this philosophy on your on being a Christian businessman? Which is
interesting. Interestingly enough, I actually have learned more leadership and more about being a CEO from pastors than I did from anybody in the secular market or any type of self-help books, Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, or any of those type of get motivated conferences. You know, I actually learned them from people who are going in and day out and serving the local church. And one of the pivotal times in my life was this man by the name of Wendell Smith, and he's out of Seattle, pastored a church called City Church, and he wrote this book called Prosperity with a Purpose. And when I read that book, my whole way of thinking changed about business and making money, and it became more purpose-driven. And from that, actually, stemmed a relationship with this pastor named Judah Smith, who's an unbelievable preacher and even amazing, an even better guy. And that led to a few relationships of just some of the leaders that are in the space right now of Christianity, and they're preaching all over the world. I mean, a couple of your friends as well, Richie Jr. and Chad Veach, and some of those guys. I've learned so much about how to lead my organization from them. You know, I'm constantly listening to their podcasts. Like, they're friends of mine. I get on the phone with them. I spend a ton of time with them. We golf, and I'm still listening to their podcasts every single morning. Wow! Because I value everything they say.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, those I would say that today's pastors, or this new generation of pastor, not the younger generation, but this new generation of pastor.
Yeah.
They're very entrepreneurial. They're great. The skill set is, I would say, expanded. The pressure is greater, but
100%.
the skill set has expanded to now. Not only are you an entrepreneur, but now you're reading documents on land acquisition. You're in boardrooms. You're in places that you probably never would be ever before. But now there are people who've paved the way. Wendell Smith, 100%. God bless him, has been one of those people.
Absolutely. So true, man. I'm so grateful for everybody that has come before us in the previous generation, man. It literally made a group of pastors that are influencing the world in such a unique way. I mean, it's not just their local church.
Yeah.
It's they have their own TV shows. Mm-hmm. They're writing books that influence entertainment, artists, athletes. And to me, that's when a church really kind of comes into its own, is when it's able to influence its local community and raise up leaders within its church. But then also their church pastor has created such an attraction that they're influencing all sources of entertainment, business, finance, all those things. That to me is what I believe the church is here for, right? It's not just to kind of have your campus and do your thing on Wednesday night and have your retreats and those are all good things. I'm not knocking those things. I just think when you take it outside the church and you're influencing and really making a difference in some of the influencers' lives, that's when God can really do something significant.
Yeah. The significance comes from influencing the influencers. Yeah. That is amazing. So this new generation that we talked about, but now let's shift to a different subject on the generations. Yeah. Millennials. Yeah. And this, what's your take on the style that leads them best?
Yeah. Man, millennials are an intriguing generation, right? If you really think about it, like what they've grown up to and what they're exposed to and the information that they're exposed to and what they see on a daily basis and what they're able to retain and process is incredible. The only problem is that because they're exposed to so much information, their attention spans are really short. Mm-hmm. So I find that in the millennial generation and the younger generation, they really have a tough time being really authentic. Mm. They have a really tough time being patient and like sitting and having a meaningful conversation and being able to look somebody in the eye and actually like encourage them and compliment and make sure they feel great, right? Because it's like they get busy or they're thinking of so many things or they have their phone and they're filming some, Instagram video or whatever it is. And it's so many distractions. It's hard to be authentic. So if there's anything I could say to the millennial younger generation, it's to
put down your phone.
Put
down your phone.
That's the start. And just spend time with the baby boomer generation and the Generation X generation because they grew up without all these distractions and electronics and I don't want to say they were forced to, but they almost had to spend time with people and have real conversations, develop real depth in their relationships, and so that's something that I don't want to say I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. I just I'm personally not a huge Instagram person. I know that could get me killed in some places, but I'm not posting all the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not as
I noticed that.
I'm not marketing like something all the time. It's just I don't know. It's maybe it's not my personality. I'd much rather go and hang with you. Yeah. Go play golf. Yeah. I'd much rather go to dinner, have long conversations, chill. Maybe that's just my personality, but I mean, I have a dad that really taught me to value people, and that people is currency more than anything else, and that your wealth doesn't come from making money or taking the glory or kind of making sure that it was all about you. Yeah. He really, really taught me to value people and value relationships and that your wealth comes from your relationships.
That's awesome. One of my questions is, where do you get your inspiration for strategy and creativity from?
Where do I get my inspiration for strategy? One, I think more people have a bent to be more strategic than others.
Yeah.
And I personally spend a lot of time thinking and processing. And so sometimes my wife will get on me all the time. She'll be just like, what are you doing? You're just like staring off somewhere and like you look lost. You know what I mean? Like what's happening? And it's not that that I'm trying to ignore her or ignore the kids running around or anything. It's just that I'm processing, I'm thinking how my next move's gonna be. I love to think. I love to think 6 and 12 months ahead on every decision. Not that I'm a crazy planner. My wife would say, you're not a planner at all because I'm late to everything at home. But when it comes to business, I actually enjoy processing out different scenarios. And so I have a finance background. And so because I have a finance background, I spent a lot of time developing a skill set with Excel. Okay. And so I love Excel.
Really?
Yeah. My wife and my close friends will tease me that it is like
I don't even know how to use it.
It is like my guilty pleasure. But I could get locked into a room for 6, 8 hours, 10 hours building out sensitivity analysis and ultimately like figuring out what's my plan forward even before I implement that plan.
Wow.
I just want to run that simulation from a financial standpoint to know if it's going to work or if there's assumptions or variations. So I'm a geek that way.
I need you on my board, bro. I need you on the Equipment Inspire, the Send Hope International board.
But that's something. If there's anything I get my inspiration from, it's I actually like planning out scenarios. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does.
But like it's. I enjoy strategizing. I also enjoy talking strategy.
Okay.
So like a few times me and you have just got on the phone and we talked about it like what would you do here? You know how
we
do
need
you do
more
this?
of those conversations.
100%. I think everybody does.
Yeah.
You know, I think every great leader needs to have somebody to run their ideas by, that their ideas will get challenged. Yeah. That, you know, especially when you're close, that friend can be like, nah, that's not a good idea. And you don't get offended by it. You're like, you're probably right. Yeah. Yeah. Let me change it. Right. Mm-hmm. When you don't have those type of relationships and people in your life that you can strategize with and bounce ideas off with and be like, oh man, attendance was down today, or oh man, this was just tough today, or hey, I had this leader do this, and I had, you know, like when you don't have people that you surround yourself to help strategize. And I'm not just talking your board members that it's like official and you're like preparing your presentation for them and having to walk through your financials. I'm talking specifically like people that you trust implicitly, that you can be candid with and you can be like, hey, this isn't working. And I don't know what to do. What do you think? You know, I think those people are critical in your life.
In the stage of an entrepreneur who started their business, what would you say would be the most critical stage, and what are the factors that could make it critical?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything in the early stage is critical, right? Yeah. Because like you're surviving, living and dying type of situation. But when it comes to the most critical stage, I think it's when you feel like you've just come up for air. Okay. And you've got a little bit of momentum. Yeah. I think most companies are susceptible there because what happens is you taste a little bit of your product doing well or your service doing well, and so all of a sudden your mind goes, oh my gosh, we're gonna start crushing. We're gonna sell this thing for $300 million, and it's gonna be this crazy successful company. Okay. Because that's human nature. Yeah. Right. You just think, hey, I got a couple wins here. I'm on the top of the world. This thing's gonna fly. Yeah. Right. I think that's one of the most critical times for a company because when things start to go well, I think people tend to relax. I think that's a human tendency and a human behavior.
Ride the momentum.
And so if you can always keep that startup mentality or that church plant mentality
Exactly, yeah.
and keep that environment with your team every single day, and they love the grind. They enjoy the hustle, and they enjoy like going back to those days when they're like loading up trucks and tearing down and set up and all the things that go into it. If you can keep that energy up when you get a little bit of momentum and you start getting a little bit of success, that's when you start taking your organization to a whole nother level, because you've already established a culture of a pace that you're not going to let up, that you're not going to be complacent. And that's usually what end up killing organizations or slowing them down. It's that complacency and that critical time of growth.
So a lot of guys, when they start off, they're excited. They go to church that preaches faith, and they want to see that happen. I think that's one of the reasons why we started the Influencers Network.
Yeah.
And just from the vibe in the room that we had the other day, I think we're off to an incredible start. I can't wait to find out how many people signed up as members and whatnot. But is it your opinion that either people expand too quickly or they get discouraged too early?
Wow, that's a great question. Expand too quickly or get discouraged? I would say expand too quickly. And here's why. Because I think everybody they have a vision of where they want to be, and they try to get there too quickly.
Okay.
And if there's anything that I know you've learned, is that things take time. Anything that is going to be meaningful or have impact, it takes time. Yes, there's unicorns. Yes, there's certain church startups. In the world, and like Richie Jr. out in Miami, it's just like that doesn't even seem real.
Rich Wilkerson Jr.
Yeah. How quickly he's got to where he's at, and the culture that he's built is incredible. But Inspire Church has been around for 18 years, and it's just been steady, growing,
steady incremental growth.
Yep.
And we had a season of exponential, and now it's incremental again, and I think it's going to get exponential again.
100%. And that's and because you've been through that history of just growing consistently year after year and believing and having faith and having a big growth and being consistent and steady again, like those type of life cycles of an organization is what builds depth and what builds character, and so that is the majority of organizations. And so most people get ahead of their skis and they try to grow too quickly, or they try to make too big of moves, and they get in a way where they overextend, or maybe they get into a building loan, or they get into some financial or some agreement that just traps them, and then all of a sudden they're limited by circumstance, they're limited by contracts, they're limited by leases or debt or whatever it is, and they don't have the flexibility to truly do what's on their heart, or to truly make pivots that organization would need in a really, really big way. And I've found specifically in my business, one of the challenges that I dealt with was managing all of the people that were involved, the capital structure, who's putting in capital, who I'm responsible for delivering for, so on and so forth. It was managing that. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have slowed things down. And
I like that what you're saying right now. If I could do it all over again.
I would slow things down, and I would make decisions that had a 15, 20-year effect, instead of trying to flip something as if I'm some magic boy that can turn and flip a company within 2 or 3 years. And so not that everybody's going to be that way. I just know for me that I want to make decisions that are sustainable, that have longevity, that are going to be around for a really long time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Micah, I think you got to catch a plane pretty soon.
I do, man.
Yeah. So it's been awesome having you, you and your dad, and it's great catching up with you. I really appreciate it.
For sure,
Can't wait to bring you back to talk to the Influencers Network.
Yeah.
I think they really
It's really cool
you.
what you're building. I mean, I'm really pumped to see what God's going to do with that.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about the group in Hawaii that we're doing this with, and We just got to see who can actually run this, so I don't have to run it, and my staff doesn't have to run it as much.
But that's the best part. Like so much of what you found out in when God's put something on your heart, like you carried a burden as if you have to do it all.
Yeah.
But the fact that you extended faith and just started this thing, it just means that God's got a plan. Somebody's going to be built up, and they're going to want to take it, and it's going to be pretty special.
Yeah, I really believe that this is from God. I'm really excited about the people who are listening to this podcast. These are the early adopters, people getting in, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Micah from Hawaii, you know what I'm saying? I mean, if you listen in the mainland, wherever you are in the world, I know you're envious. This is Hawaii. But I can tell you this, that all the people who are listening in Hawaii, in the kingdom of God, who want to make a difference wherever you are, the marketplace is all 7 spheres of society, government, education, arts, entertainment, and sports, whatever it is, go make a difference. Go be an influencer. Let's go change this state and change the world. Thank you, Micah.
Too good.
Appreciate it.
You're a homie,
Bless
buddy.
you, bro.
Love you.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the Leader Lift podcast. If you were impacted by today's message, let us know. Email us at info@inspire.church or tell us in the comments. You can check out mikekai.tv for more leadership resources through my books, Plateaus, or the Pound for Pound Principle. And don't forget to subscribe and rate us on the podcast. You can also find this podcast on all major podcast platforms. Subscribe to us there also, and you can listen again on your way to work. You can also find this podcast on YouTube. Search for Inspire Church TV and click on the Leader Lift playlist, and you can watch us on your lunch break again. Don't forget to subscribe so you get all the latest info. God bless.